the motion be agreed to and give the call to the honourable member for Fisher.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's unfortunate that members of this House on this side were not given an opportunity to put forward amendments to this motion, as my colleagues were in the Senate. And those were that the members of the coalition would have agreed to this motion if we were allowed to put the following amendments. 1, that recognition by Palestinian representatives and the Palestinian Authority of Israel's right to exist as a Jewish and democratic state. And when I'm putting these, I'm talking about these are preconditions to what we would have agreed to in relation to this motion. 2, that there is no role for Hamas in a future Palestinian state. 3, reform of the Palestinian Authority is achieved, including major security and governance reforms. 4, agreed processes to resolve final status issues, including agreed state borders and rights of return. And 5, appropriate security guarantees between parties to ensure peace and security within recognised borders. As I said, it's unfortunate that members of this House were not afforded the same respect or the same ability to be able to do what our colleagues did in the Senate, in the other place. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Mr. Speaker, in December of last year, along with a member for Macnamara and a couple of our other colleagues, we travelled to Israel, and we saw firsthand the atrocities of what took place on the 7th of October. And it is fair to say that that had a long-lasting, in fact, life-changing experience for me. I stand here as the member for Fisher. I estimate that I would have probably no more than 100 Jewish people in my electorate. If you look at this purely from a political perspective, I've got no skin in the game. But this is not an issue which we should be looking at as a political skin in the game. There's a what's right and there's a what's wrong. And aside from those 5 preconditions that I just read out, everybody talks about how there must be a ceasefire. Why is there no one ever talking about how Hamas should surrender and return the hostages? Now, if this motion talked about a ceasefire or a surrender of Hamas, if it talked about the return of around 120 hostages that are still being held by Hamas today, 8 months later, 8 months. Can you imagine living in a tunnel, being held captive for 8 months, away from your friends and your family? They don't know whether you're alive. This war was started on the 7th of October, and this war could finish today if Hamas surrendered and returned those near 120 hostages. Why are we not talking about that? Why are we not talking about the suffering of the tens of thousands of Israelis that have also been displaced along the northern borders? The media never talks about that. Tens of thousands of Israelis have had to be displaced and are living in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem because it's not safe for them to live in border areas because of the rocket attacks from Gaza, from the West Bank, from Lebanon. It's as though the media doesn't want to talk about it. Those things just... And yet tens of thousands of Israelis have been suffering that displacement. Now, this war could be over today if the people who started this war surrendered and returned the hostages.